I'm Kesenya and welcome to this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm your Astro Weather girl and this week is such a special week. It is Solstice week. We look forward to this for 6 months. It's a time of celebration, a time of joy, and there is some interesting things playing out in this week's sky. So without further ado, let's dig in. The first energy that I want to talk about is the energy that is playing out again, Cancer Capricorn axis. That's where all the action is for most of this year, and this time it's an opposition between Mercury, this is little Mercury down here, and Pluto, the other tiny little planet in that big conglomeration up there, on the 19th of June. So this is, as we could imagine, going to be quite an interesting time. I'll draw the opposition in here because this is where most of the activity is coming from. It is going to be a difficult time. Whenever we have an opposition in a natal chart or in a transiting chart, it means a time of trying to integrate two energies that are opposing one another, and it's hard. It's like, and I often use this analogy of mixing oil and water together. You're trying to integrate two things that are quite separate, at the most separate point in the chart that they can be from one another. So what is going to be occurring this week with Mercury, planet of knowledge, planet of intellect and communication and words and speaking and learning, and with Pluto, the planet of transformation and death and rebirth experiences, rejuvenation. What is going on with these two? Well, we need to watch out this week for times when we can be emotionally attached to the way we're thinking. We have no objectivity in our thought processes, so we can therefore become very stirred up. Pluto is a planet connected with obsessions, jealousies, like those deep, intense, passionate, overwhelming type emotions that we have no control over within us, and we're like, where's that coming from? And Mercury is our thinking patterns, our learning, the way our mind, the cogs tick over in our mind. So when these two are opposing one another, we can have a severe emotional attachment to our thought processes, and that might not be very realistic or grounded. So watch out for your thinking processes that could be too obsessive, too passionate, too even misplaced. So be careful of that. You might find that the people around you in your environment are very opinionated. They're quite argumentative. That can also crop up, and there can be some intellectual power struggles. So you know the kind of thing, you're at university or doing some course or something, and there's people and they don't think like you, and it's like, well, I'm not going to give an inch and they're not going to give an inch, and I'll show them how stupid they are. And those kinds of real argy-bargy intellectual interactions that are just off. They're not attractive to witness, and they're not delightful to be in. They make everyone uncomfortable. So watch out for people like that in your sphere, in your circle, and I'll give some solutions for how to deal with these situations at the end of this little section. But we need to watch out for that. We also need to watch out for it within us as well. Where are we perhaps acting like we're superior, like we have the power? We want the power in the intellectual situation, in the communication situation. We want the dominance, and there can be real power struggles that come out at this time, intellectually and communicatively. We can have zero sensitivity and zero tact in our communications, trying to overpower other people through our communications. So really tread carefully at this time. I don't know about you guys, I'm sure there's plenty of you out there who are going through heavy duty Pluto transits at the moment, like I am, and we're going to be particularly susceptible to this. So really watch yourself. Kesenya, watch yourself. Watch what you say. Watch your communications. We can have no sensitivity to other people, but equally other people can show complete lack of sensitivity in their communications with us. They can be critical, they can be deconstructive, they can be downright nasty. So we need to have a good sense of our own personal power, Pluto, in order to be able to shield ourselves from any sort of intellectual attacks or verbal attacks. Mercury is our words, that can come our way as well. Now, I mentioned criticism. That's another thing that crops up with this interaction. We can give unnecessary criticism, and we can also receive unnecessary criticism. So brace yourself. This may very well pop up at this time. Lay low. Try and avoid situations where that might happen so that you're not, you know, thrown into the fire, so to speak. Yeah, watch out for being just too quick to criticize, being too quick to pass judgment on a situation. You know, your child has done something, they think it's wonderful, but you can see the flaws in it. You know, maybe they're learning to juggle, and they're trying to show you, look at me, Mum, I can juggle, and you're like, oh God, this is lame. But then, you know, you don't say that. You know, you don't offer criticism. They don't need that criticism. You find within you words of encouragement instead, but you'll have to actively think through that process of let me encourage rather than let me criticize whatever you're trying to do. So be careful of that, particularly if you're inclined to, I mean, we're all wired differently. Even if you're inclined to offer constructive criticism before you would offer any type of praise, then you're going to have to really be careful at this time, because you can hurt people deeply with unnecessary and inappropriate criticisms. Now, another thing that can crop up is perhaps feeling a little bit intellectually isolated or misunderstood at this time. Not an easy one. And for those of us who talk about astrology out in the real world, you'll know sometimes we can feel on the outer because of that. People just look at us with a blank face. I was sharing with some people this week actually about astrology, and the looks on their faces were like, what the hell, you know? And I thought, Kesenya, just don't go there. But it's that feeling of people don't get me, people don't understand me, I'm not being comprehended here. So just know that that can crop up. You can also feel like you're intellectually on the outer as well. Now, this doesn't necessarily apply to fields of astrology, but anywhere, like, you know, you might be at university, you might be at high school, you might be in a work situation, and you might feel intellectually that you're not, you know, you get it, you get what's going on in your sphere, but nobody else seems to resonate with what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what your mind is telling you. So there's this isolation experience that you might have, say in a board meeting. You might be having a meeting of a board meeting or a, you know, work meeting or something, and you share, oh, we could apply this principle, or we could do this in our next project, or this is an idea that I've had, and everyone just looks at you like, what is she talking about? And you feel this barrier that's there between your communication and being able to be understood and embraced for the way you're thinking. So it's just the energy of the moment. It won't last. It's a passing phase, but it can cause some, you know, a bit of difficulty and a bit of, can even cause a little bit of ego wobbling, if you like, because Pluto is the ego smasher. And one of the things he does is to break down inappropriate ego behavior. And if you get an ego trip out of your words, out of your intellect, out of your communication, then these kinds of feeling, like I said, intellectually isolated, can cause a bit of an ego wobble through the opposition here. So watch out for that. All these interactions that I've just spoken about that can be a bit challenging, a bit volatile, just watch out, because they could actually be serving a purpose of trying to dissolve some of the ego that you carry, or perhaps the ego of people around you. Okay, so just watch this week for that. But there are solutions. One of the solutions is just to take it easy as much as you can. Avoid, you know, aggressive, antagonistic people. Just walk away. Take the higher ground, zip up your lip, and don't get involved with any type of argy-bargy that crops up. Yeah, if you're around people who stir you up, who antagonize you, who are poking, you know, digging, making little jibes and barbs, be the bigger person. Be the wiser person and say, I'm not coming down to that level. I'm not playing that stupid game. Mercury is games, and Pluto can be quite intense games. Don't go there. Don't go there. Walk away, be the bigger person, and say, I don't need this shit. So that's actually easy. Well, it's easy to do when the energy supports it. This week you might be really triggered and want to just fire up. You might have, you know, a bit of a viper's tongue, you know, and come out with like a really stinging retort, and you're like, yeah. But don't. If you can avoid it, you might have the capability to do that, but my advice would be just don't. Just smile, walk away. Because any kind of viper's tongue interactions that occur, they're not going to serve your highest good. You will fall prey to sort of the lower energies then of this by entering into argumentative situations. And I will point out, I'm going to talk about this in just a second, but Mars is very close to this as well. So he's kind of entering into this verbal dialogue at the moment as well with his aggression. So be careful. Do not allow yourself to sort of, even if you're brilliant at one-liner retorts that absolutely smash the opposition, just don't do it, because it's not the higher manifestation of this energy. Walk away from people who stir you up, people who are digging at you and trying to set their barbs for you. Now you can at this time, you've probably heard me talking a lot in my past videos about not allowing energies to fester within you, because they will cause health problems and they will cause difficulties. So we need to express this. If we're around someone and they're being a real shit ass, then we need to express our frustration and our aggression in healthy ways. So go write in your journal, oh, this person, da, 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 and write it out, because Mercury is writing and communicating, and it's a therapeutic practice to write in a journal. Mercury is also speaking and chatting. Find a good, safe friend and go and just be like, oh my God, this just happened, ugh, and spill the beans, you know. Let it all out to someone who's a safe sounding board that is also getting the energy of frustration out of you regarding somebody who's stirring you up. Now, even taking some time out to read or study metaphysical type topics, or you know, go and grab an astrology book and just get stuck into it and read, you know. Direct your energy into Pluto, you know, intellectual pursuits, Mercury, and Pluto topics. Anything mystical, anything metaphysical, anything therapeutic. You can, like, astrology can be a therapeutic tool, or, you know, anything that's psychological. Go and read a book by Carl Jung, or Jung, I can never say it properly. Read one of his works, do a Myers-Briggs test online, you know, just get stuck into some kind of learning around psychology and understanding the deeper, dark, subconscious realms of our life as a source of release for that energy. There are going to be some other remedies that I'm going to offer for these times as well when we talk about Mars, which is coming up now. Now, I don't need to draw another opposition line, because you know what? The day after Mercury makes an opposition to Pluto, Mars makes an opposition to Pluto. This is how close they are. So this is the 20th of June that Mars will then step into the picture as well. So very volatile, verbal, intellectual, and action-oriented times with this opposition that's playing out. So we need to watch out for with the Mars opposition on the 20th, and this can play out a day or two before or after for both of these energies. Keep that in mind. Watch out for obsessions with coming first. Remember, Pluto is obsession, passionate, like overwhelming, like it's gonna just tear me apart kind of emotional feelings. And Mars is the energy of winning. I've got to win, I've got to come first, I've got to be the victor in the battle, I've got to be the hero. This is Mars. And so you might have an obsession with winning, coming first, being superior, being ruthless about getting your own way. So it does tie in very much to what I was describing with the Mercury energy, which is intellectual superiority. Now you're wanting just to sort of show yourself as being better than, better than all the rest, I'm smarter than them, I know more about astrology than you do, or you know, that kind of stupid shit. Sorry, just on that topic, it's never a competition. There is more than enough in the world for everybody, you know, and we can learn from each other, we can grow with each other. That is the beauty of astrology. It is rich, it is deep, and each person's mind will function with it differently, so we can learn so much from one another. So I find it really off-putting to observe people who are competitive within astrological realms. It is not like astrology. Sorry, now I'm going on my bandwagon, but astrology is ruled by the sign of Aquarius. What is Aquarius about? Equality, the best for all mankind, the humanitarianism, not about elitism. That's not Aquarius. It's about the hoi polloi, it's about the common people, it's about everybody. And astrology is for everybody. It's not an elite thing. I'm not better than you, you're not better than me. It's common to everybody, and everyone has some beautiful astrological gift to bring the world through the interpretation of their own astrological wiring. So this is why, and I love this about those who work in astrology, certainly the people I've encountered, there is no, the people I've come across, generally speaking, this is not the case for everybody, but most people, there is no competition. It's more collaborative. How can I help you? How can you help me? Let's work together. Because that's what Aquarius is. It's we're a team. We're in this together. We're friends. And that's, astrology is ruled by Aquarius. So that is the true essence of astrology. If you come across an astrologer who thinks they have to criticize everybody else, who thinks they're superior to everybody else, who thinks they don't do it right, you're wrong, I'm right. If you come across an astrologer who behaves that way, run a mile, because that's not the true essence of Aquarius. It is equal for all, collaborative, supportive. So there's my 2 cents. Sorry, there, I've gone out of control now with my little rant there about astrology and astrology workers. Take that as you will. But with the back to the Mars energy, as I said, there can be an obsession at this time with feeling superior. I'm going to be superior to you. You know, we're working in this corporate environment. I'm going to get the better of you this week because I'm going to show you up for being the lazy ass that you are, and I'm going to look really good. No, don't go there. If you feel that way inclined, it is because Mars is opposing Pluto. It's a momentary couple of day energy in the scheme of things, and it's not going to serve you well in the long run to hold on to that kind of an attitude. You can feel out of control, lacking in patience, lacking in perspective. This can lead to clashes with other people, obviously, arguments, and even accidents. Mars rules accidents, so watch out. For, you know, you had an aggressive day at work, you get in the car, you slam it in reverse, and boom, back straight into your boss's Mercedes-Benz or something. You know, just take it easy, you know. Don't let this feeling of being out of control, lacking perspective, being overly passionate in all the wrong ways get you into trouble this week. So there is an excess of energy with Mars that could get you into trouble. I mean, like, Pluto is the higher octave of Mars, so really it's that energy, that passion, that desire, that drive amped up on steroids. And then when Mars comes into the picture, it's like times it by 300, or you know, like, it's full on over the top energy, drive, passion, enthusiasm. Also Pluto, jealousies, obsessions, you know, desire for revenge, and I'll show them. So be careful of being, you know, having an excess of energy in realms that are not going to help you to be the best that you can be. Now, again, this energy can throw you into the path of ruthless, antagonistic people. If you're keeping yourself well regulated, good for you, kudos to you, big thumbs up, but just be aware people who are ruthless and aggressive and overly assertive can cross your path. watch out for those people this week as well. So it is going to be a challenging week. Oh golly, what a way to start solstice. But yeah, watch out for those people crossing your path. Ladies, be wary of going on dates at this time. If you're someone who is dating, not if you're married, not if you're in a nice, stable, loving relationship, but if you are dating, be wary of going on dates at this time, especially with anyone who has been persistent, obsessive, aggressive towards you. And look, in one word, just don't go there. Because if you establish, say, a new relationship with somebody now, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get someone who is obsessive, someone who's aggressive, someone who's jealous and controlling, power hungry, can be manipulative. Okay, so just don't even start that. If you go on a date, give yourself maybe 2 to 3 days from the 20th. If you go on a date with someone around that time, especially a first date, you're opening yourself up to the potential for abuse. So ladies, just don't, okay? Now, if you're married, if you are, if you're in a loving relationship, you don't need to worry about this. You know, you're safe. Go out on a date, have fun, leave the restaurants for all the married people this weekend. And you know, if you're single, go hang out with your girlfriends, because you don't want to step into the masculine Mars energy that's amped up by Pluto obsession, rage, jealousy. Even Pluto is connected and correlated with abuse when he makes a connection to Mars. So there's a tip there. But there are solutions to this. So if you come across aggressive people, if you are really antagonized by a certain situation and you feel like you're just about ready to explode, then do some solo sport. Go to the gym, swim laps, go for a run. I wasn't going to, but I'm going to pack my running shoes when I go for my trip. Obviously, I'm recording this pre-trip to Bulgaria. By the time this airs, I will hopefully, all being well, be in Bulgaria on the astrology conference. So I will have my running shoes with me just in case I need to let off some steam. But you can go for a run, you can swim laps, you can go to the gym, you can do some kickboxing, you can, you know, some aggressive tribal dancing, whatever works well for you to get the physical energy out from inside you, churning up in that ball of anger within you, and let it out of your body. That's one solution at this time. Again, the easiest solution, just avoid people where possible. I mean, if you go to work and you're trying to deal with the HR rep who's just a real dick, you know, or you're dealing with, I don't know, you've got a client who's just a pain in the ass, then, you know, you can't really avoid those situations. You're going to have to sort of swallow your anger a bit there, or your frustration a bit, and then go and do some kickboxing after work. But if you can avoid it, stay away from situations that have got antagonistic people, people who stir you up. You could actually, one of the solutions you could employ would be to fix something actually. Mars is tools. So, you know, you might be able, instead of going and hanging around with that person who's just driving you bonkers, go and, you know, fix that leaky pipe or paint that wall that needs painting. Use your tools. Do some positive, constructive Mars things instead. Like I said, exercise is Mars. That's another thing that you can do. So create. Mars is actually quite entrepreneurial and in that sense very, very creative. So you could actually, you know, might go build something. You might go, you know, just do something that's more creative than sitting around stewing about someone who's giving you the shits. I'm trying to think, maybe go cook something. That's a creative endeavor with knives. Mars rules knives, so, you know, don't make a stir fry or something like that for dinner, and you can let off steam that way. That's really positive. Or this is one of the bonuses, if you are in a positive loving relationship, one of the ways you can let off steam is have some really raucous sex because Mars rules sex, passion, desire. and sexual expression. So go for it. If you come home and you're really like, you've had a shit day, it might be the last thing you feel like doing is making love. But it doesn't have to be that slow, sensual kind. I'm talking like, let's get into it on the kitchen bench. Let's get rid of that stir fry and let's go for it on the kitchen table. Like, that's the kind of energy you want to employ. And feel free, like, you know, or even make space, literally and figuratively, to go for that sort of thing if you're in a loving relationship, because that is going to be an outlet, a release valve for you at this time. And probably for your partner as well, I might add as well. It's not just, you know, oh, I'm feeling bad, you know, because of this situation, so you've got to help me out and let's make love. No, because this energy is applying to everybody right now. We're all going to feel this. It's a current energy in the sky. It is not specific to anyone's personal planets in the chart, unless you have personal planets making an aspect. Then it'll be even more volatile in your chart. But it is an aspect, it is an energy that is applicable to everybody in the world, which is why we're all going to notice it so much and feel it so much, and why we will encounter people like this, because we're all going through this. So you and your partner are going to benefit from a little rumpy pumpy on the kitchen bench. But they are the two energies that are coming up this week that you can be aware of. And you've got some solutions here now to sort of help you through it. And if you find yourself losing your control, getting a bit volatile and angry, wanting to just, you know, like, then remind yourself, Kesenya said, this is what I should do instead. Okay, get my journal and write down how I feel instead, or I'm going for a run. Keep that in mind, and it will help you to overcome those volatile situations if they crop up this week. Now, on to the good stuff. It is solstice week. Woohoo! So what is the solstice? Well, basically, in simple terms, it's due to the angle and the orbit of the Earth around the Sun. The Northern Hemisphere is going to have its longest day this June 21st or 22nd, depending on where you are in the world. The Northern Hemisphere will have its longest day, and the Southern Hemisphere will have its shortest day of the year. That's essentially what solstice is. The sun has reached its furthermost point before it starts going back across the sky each day. I won't go into the astronomy of it, but essentially longest day in the Northern Hemisphere, shortest day in the Southern Hemisphere, and then we begin a 6-month trajectory back to the longest day in the Southern Hemisphere and the shortest day in the Northern Hemisphere, midwinter, midsummer, depending on where you are in the world. So it's the beginning of a 6-month process now, the ending of one 6-month process, the beginning of a whole new 6-month process till we reach the opposite solstice. Now, the ancient Greek term for solstice was actually stand of the sun. That's what the ancient Greek term, I'm not going to try and pronounce it because I'm not good with my ancient Greek pronunciation, but the ancient Greek word for solstice meant stand of the sun. The sun is at its furthermost point, it stands there, and then it starts moving back to the opposite point 6 months later. So it's the furthest point of the sun. This references when the sun is at its furthermost point before it begins its journey back to the opposite solstice position. There we go. There's my notes just explain exactly what I said. So I'm really excited. I'm leaving the shortest day of the year, midwinter in Australia, to go and be in the Northern Hemisphere for midsummer, which will be delightful. Yay, leave the cold behind. So we'll really notice after this date, and this happens in the summer, at midsummer as well, but we notice that winter in Australia at solstice time in June, that winter really kicks in. We start to, like, things have been cold, yuck, and rainy and miserable, but it really amps up after the solstice. We start to really get the frosty mornings. Depending on where you are, you might get a bit of snow. You start to, really get out those puffer jackets and scarves and things to keep warm. Have to turn your electric blanket on at night because it really kicks in after solstice. And similarly, in the Northern Hemisphere, at summer solstice, midsummer, you start to really, you know, shorts every day, you know, shorts and t-shirts, and it's cool drinks. No, I don't want a coffee, too hot for a coffee. Let's have, you know, a nice cool orange juice or something. You know, you want to keep cool because the weather gets consistently more warm after the solstice. So, I mean, there's still cool days. You can still get something out of the box, but generally speaking, the season kicks in after the solstice. Now, most ancient cultures, they celebrate this beautiful period of time, this seasonal event, with a celebration or a party. In ancient times, there were dances, there were festivals, there were, you know, it was a time of delight and a time of celebration for the community to kind of, I guess, to welcome in ceremonially the new era and to say goodbye to the previous 6 months. So this is a great time for us to do the same. Okay, we live in modern cultures. We don't have a solstice celebration of sorts, but it is actually a really good time to do that if you wanted to honor the changing of the guard, the movement of the sun. Very ancient practice to do that. So you'll set a happy tone by doing this for the coming 6 months. You'll set good vibes, good intentions, good momentum for the 6 months ahead, and you will honor your journey over the last 6 months as well. So I would encourage you at this time to make a list of intentions, make a list of your dreams and the visualizations you have for the next 6 months. What do you want? Where do you want to be in 6 months' time? What do you want your life to look like? What will have changed? What's your desire? Really look into those things for the next 6 months, and then find a magical way that aligns with who you are, something that you really, you know, that's you, as a way of offering it to the universe. It could be a prayer, it could be a ceremony that you create for yourself, it could be a journal entry, it could be going out, like my daughter and I love to do, go out and lay under the stars for an evening and, you know, just sit there with our hot chocolates and just, you know, watch the stars come out one by one, and use our app, and oh, that's Sirius, and oh, that's, you know, Vega, and, you know, lie there and enjoy the stars as part of what you do to honor this ceremony. It can be anything that feels like a special moment of honoring and celebration of the astrological seasons that we go through. It's a great time to do that. So what I'm going to do is now go through each sign and look at how you can celebrate in your own Cancer style. And the reason I'm choosing Cancer is because the solstice occurs when the sun moves into 0 degrees Cancer. That is solstice. And that's in Australia, it's the winter solstice, summer solstice in the northern hemisphere. And of course, when the sun is at 0 degrees Capricorn, then we have the reverse, because it takes 6 months for the sun to go halfway around the zodiac, and then another 6 months. That's how it goes. So we're going to look at how we can celebrate in Cancer style, Cancer being this house here, dependent on what your rising sign is. So if you know your rising sign, get ready. Let's go through a few of them. Well, if you happen to be, who did I start with? Okay, let's start with Cancer. If you're a Cancer rising person, on the 21st or 22nd, depending where you are, the sun will be at 0 degrees of your sign, and that will be solstice. And so you can celebrate in first house style. So you could spend time alone doing something that you love, communing with nature, being close to the earth. Cancer rules properties and land. So this is about the individual, doing something as an individual. Now, if you want to go out and be with people, go out and be with people. But try and set aside some time on this day to be alone and at one with the land, with the earth, by yourself. Maybe, you know, you might like to go out and lie on a blanket under the stars just by yourself for half an hour. And that is your celebration of solstice, where I am at peace and at one with myself and with the earth at this time. Very much a first house endeavor or first house celebration. you know, and it's funny. People think celebrating has to have a lot of people, or ceremony, you've got to, you know, have people around to witness what you're doing. It's not true. You can have some of the best, most celebratory, most exquisite moments of connection with the divine. That's really what ceremony is. It's a form of connection with divine. You can have the most exquisite moments of connection with the divine by yourself. And certainly as Pisces rising, that's when I have my most profound connection with the divine, is on my own, in isolation usually. So Cancer people can spend some time by themselves in some way on this day as a form of celebration and dedication to the seasonal changeover that we're having at this time. So if you happen to have Gemini rising, this is putting Cancer as your second house. So your form of celebration can be maybe something like going out to a restaurant, going out to an art gallery, or spending time, you know, being hospitable, being, you know, having people around, indulge in something pleasant, indulge in something decadent. That can be your form of celebration, but do it with a heart of gratitude, a heart of thankfulness to the universe for what it's done for you in the last 6 months, what it's brought you, what you've learned, how you've grown, and dedicate the future 6 months as well. So you might go out to a restaurant with some girlfriends, you know, at this time, and you can share, okay, what's happened for you in the last 6 months while you're out having a beautiful fine meal. Or, you know, you might be out shopping together with your girlfriends. It's a very second house thing to do. Go out shopping with your, you know, girlfriends or guy friends, and then you stop for a coffee and, okay, what do you desire to achieve this coming 6 months? You just share through some sort of pleasant experience. Or you can even do it by yourself. This is not necessarily, whoopsies, a house where it has to be done in communion with someone else. You can go out shopping by yourself and stop for a coffee, and then, you know, I carry a little journal in my handbag, and so if I get any ideas I just write them down. You're out, you stop for a coffee while you're out shopping, and just thank the universe. Write it down. I'm so thankful for this, that, the other, or honor this 6 month changeover by setting intentions while you're doing something pleasurable, enjoyable, something very second house. So if you happen to be Taurus rising, Cancer is falling in your third house. So what you can then do is you can have a celebratory time with relatives if you would like to. Have some rallies over to the house for a barbecue, or, you know, you could even, you know, meet up at a restaurant yourself if you wanted to there, or have, you know, some fun with your social networks. Very third house. Go out, have fun, be sociable, be where the action is, go to a party. You can do that with the third house energy. But it's about connecting with people, this house. So you can connect with relatives, you can connect with your siblings as well, seen by the third house. You can connect with general social networks that you interact with. So there might be a party on at the beach near you, and you decide, let's go down there, and you grab a couple of friends, you go down there, and you honor the change of seasons out in nature with friends at a party, celebrating in very much Cancer style, third house style. Remember, for all of us, Cancer is actually connected to the land, to the earth. So if you can be in nature to celebrate, doesn't matter what sign you are, if you can be in nature to celebrate, it's going to be very Cancer-like, which is why we often, the ancient cultures often had celebrations out in nature, like dancing at dawn together, or you know, doing ceremony under the stars and being out in nature. And with the earth, which is very, very Cancer energy. So whichever sign, if you can tailor your celebration to be in nature, double bonus for you guys. So yeah, you can enjoy partying in the traditional sense if you're Gemini rising for solstice. Now if you're Aries rising, this puts the solstice energy celebrations in your 4th house. So you can actually connect with your family, with your children, with your parents, with your ancestors in some way, with the land and the earth very tangibly for Aries rising people. So for you guys, it would be really, really lovely to do some kind of a, you know, a ceremony around, you know, connecting with your ancestors. I'm not saying get out the Ouija board and try and contact your ancestors and that sort of thing at this time, but you could offer a prayer, or you could offer like a candlelit ceremony under the stars of gratitude to your ancestors and what they have brought your life. Equally, you can honor in some way, if you want to, the future generations to come through you, or through your, you know, your siblings or your relatives or your family, and honor them as well by, you know, offering a prayer. You know, where there is no such thing as time in the great scheme of things. We live in a time-bound universe and a time-bound planet, but that's not the greater, now I'm getting into philosophical stuff, but that's not the greater scheme of things. The greater universe and source is not bound by time the way we are on this planet. So it's quite appropriate to offer prayers for future generations, and as well as prayers for previous generations. So ancestors are seen by the 4th house. It's also a time when you can go deep with your emotions, do some emotional work, you know, whatever way that does it for you. Again, lying out under the stars is a great thing to do. But you can also, like I said, physically connect with family. Do something beautiful with your children and your partner if you have them. This is a lovely time, if you're Aries rising, to do some kind of celebratory experience with your children. You might decide to go for a picnic or something and just be out in the forest or the bush and enjoy, you know, a little campfire and being together. That could be your celebration for solstice. It can be as simple as that. So if you are Pisces rising, whoa, gone too far. This is the 5th house. Anything fun, anything pleasurable, that's for you guys, for, well, me, Pisces, all of us Pisces people, Pisces rising. We can spend time celebrating with our lovers if we're so fortunate to have them. This is a lovely thing to do, you know, go and do some kind of celebratory experience, momentous moment of experience with a partner or a lover, or your children as well. 5th house is children. Or in some sort of entertaining, pleasurable environment. So it would be perfectly appropriate for Pisces rising people to go out dancing, to go out to a concert, to sort of hang out at a jazz club or somewhere fun and pleasurable. And they're all musical things, aren't they? I love music. You know, but anything that's about pleasure, joy, delight, whatever brings you pleasure, whatever brings you joy, whatever brings you delight, go and do that. Your hobbies are seen here. You can actually give some time to your hobbies on this day. Fishing might be something you absolutely love, and you go and sit out by the river and it's peace and it's quiet and you're there with the birds and it's just, you know, you and your boyfriend or you and your girlfriend and you're fishing. And it's just magical. That could be your celebratory experience. For solstice, if you have Pisces rising, doing a hobby with a lover, with your children, could be something simple and beautiful as going fishing. So for you guys, do something fun, and that will be totally tapping into solstice celebratory energy for you. For Aquarius rising people, this is falling in the 6th house. So I would encourage you, if you're Aquarius rising, host an event. You know, this can be your act of service. The 6th house is how we serve. So this is your chance to tap into solstice celebratory style and host an event. And that can be your service. You know, maybe you might like to ask the people who are on the outer in your local community. If you feel motivated to do this, you know, maybe there's a community hall you can hire, collaborate with some other people, and maybe do a solstice lunch for people who are homeless or people who don't have access to food the way we do. You could, I don't know, you might like to go and do some work at a soup kitchen or something. Or you could even just have in your own home, ask a few friends who don't have family around, who don't have a lot of contacts, who are a bit lonely. Ask them over. Let's have a brunch together, and I'll just cook some bacon on the barbecue, and we'll toast a few buns, and we'll just make it simple and easy, but it's still an act of service to others. So for Aquarius rising people, this is a great way to celebrate by offering service to people through 6th house Cancer energy. Now, if you are Capricorn rising, one way to celebrate solstice and make a ceremony of it, so to speak, is going to be through partnership. So this is also, the 7th house is also a house of culture and cultural activities, certainly refined, dignified cultural activities. So you might like to do some sort of a, go to an art gallery together with your partner, it could be a business partner, it could be a, marriage partner, but some kind of going and doing something with another person that's very cultural, and that could be your celebratory experience. If you're fortunate enough to have a planetarium in your town, you could go and spend time at the planetarium together with somebody. That would be a cultural and scientific also experience that you could enjoy at this time. Any type of sharing, of give and take, is really good for Capricorn rising people to celebrate at solstice. So it could be, and it doesn't have to be with a marriage partner. If you're not married, don't feel that this doesn't apply to you. This 1st house is the house of you. Like I said when I was talking about Cancer rising and how they'll celebrate, they can do individual things by themselves, on their own, just, even half an hour on their own, where they dedicate it to looking at what's coming up in the year, in the 6 months ahead, and giving thanks for the 6 months just gone. That can be their ceremony. It's very individual because the 1st house is individual. But for Capricorn, the solstice energy takes place in the 7th house. The 7th house is other people. This is you, this is others. So yes, it's your spouse, but it's also other people. Go out and be where there are other people. So that might be in the town square, it might be down at the beach, it might be camping by the river, wherever there's a lot of other people. Just go and be where there are other people is a form of celebration for you, Capricorn rising, at this time. Or do something with another person. Just look for some sort of celebratory way you can enjoy solstice with somebody else. So ring up a friend, say, hey, let's go for brunch at the local restaurant, and then talk and share about these topics, about what's happened for you in the last 6 months, what's coming up for you in the next 6 months. Get down to the nitty-gritty with a friend, or like I said, go to an art gallery with somebody, go to a planetarium, do something cultural, maybe a fashion exhibition. Very 7th house. 7th house is also connected to the upper levels of society, so you might like to, if you're in Melbourne, you'd go to a restaurant in Collins Street for dinner or something like that, sort of the upper, Paris end of Melbourne, or Paris end of wherever you happen to live in the world. So that's one thing that you can do as a Capricorn person, to do some sort of, and you'd love that as Capricorn, doing some sort of high-end social status kind of endeavor that's refined and sophisticated with a friend or a partner or a business partner at this time. That's one way that you can celebrate solstice. Sagittarius rising people, they have this falling in their 8th house. Ooh. Now, it's not going to happen. Sagittarius loves to walk every week. He likes to go for a trot. So this energy for Sagittarius rising is falling in the 8th house. Now the 8th house is a house connected with therapy, mysticism, hidden practices, and so we can actually tap into ancient ceremony if we would like to. If you have the opportunity to join in with, say, well, I believe that on the astrology conference there's going to be a Greet the Sun dance. That's the kind of thing you can tap into and will get the most out of if you're Sagittarius rising. Doing something like that, doing some sort of ancient mystical ceremony, such as a sun, morning sun dance at 5 a.m. or something, that can be very, very suitable as a way to celebrate solstice for you. Some kind of making some sacred space for an intimate celebration. Remember, the 8th house is intimacy. And this can be an intimate celebration either with yourself or with a partner. Now, if you wanted it to be, you could theoretically, according to this house, go down this road and be have some sort of sexual expression with a partner or with yourself if you want to, as an outer expression of gratitude, or as an expression of receiving. This is the house of receiving as well. It's opposite the 2nd house, which is our money, our resources, what we make to support our body's journey through life. This is what we receive. The 8th house is opposite to that. It's what we receive to enjoy life. So doing something that allows you to receive from others, and that's what sex is. You're giving and receiving in the 8th house. So you can give to yourself and receive from yourself or from a partner at this time. So doing some sort of sacred ceremony or having in privacy some kind of sexual experience. This is for those who are old enough. That can actually be a form of ceremony and celebration and joy. And therefore I would encourage you to make it such, to make it a ceremonial type experience if you want to. So yeah, if you're Sagittarius rising, look for ways that you can experience solstice ceremonially and therapeutically. So there might be there might be a group in your town that likes to get together and, do a drumming circle or something like that. But even if there's not, it's quite okay to do this by yourself. One of my very dearest, darlingest friends hosted a winter solstice party at her house, and at her home, she had a beautiful property. She has still a beautiful property with a lavender labyrinth that she had created, and you could walk the labyrinth. And at this solstice party, she lit up tea light candles the whole way around the lavender labyrinth at solstice time, and she had chanting music playing, and we were able to, this woman's my gorgeous mentor, but we were able to walk through the lavender labyrinth by candlelight on solstice night with chanting music playing. Now that is a ceremony that would very much fit with 8th house celebratory energy. You can create something like this for yourself, a mystical ceremony or a mystical type practice. You might like to do some research in the lead up to the solstice about some different things you could do. You could, if you wanted to, draw a labyrinth on a piece of paper and just trace your finger through the labyrinth. It could be as simple as that, some sort of ancient ceremonial shamanic practice that allows you to connect with the divine in a sacred type way. So I encourage you, jump on Google, find some ceremonial practices, do them for yourself, or join a group that perhaps has some sort of a practice if you're that way inclined, or if you get the chance, want to, some sort of ceremony through a sexual expression could very much work for people at with Sagittarius rising as a form of ceremony and gratitude and forward looking to the coming 6 months. I know this might be a bit kooky for some people, but I do have a background in the shamanic side of things, so I enjoy it. Take it or leave it. It's up to you. If you like this, embrace it. If you don't, just leave it. You don't have to walk with everything that I say. If you're Scorpio rising, then Cancer falls in the 9th house, so you can celebrate with benefactors, you can celebrate with gurus, you can celebrate with mentors, with father figures, or you can also go somewhere that is, I'm just going to see if that's going to say, other cultural. So, you know, you might be able to go, just say you're living in Australia, which is very Western culture, you might get the chance to go and enjoy some sort of Italian celebration somewhere. Or, you know, you might get the opportunity to enjoy some indigenous celebration and participate in an indigenous ceremony. Any type of other cultural activity is going to be very beautiful if you're Scorpio rising. So if you have a mentor in your life, see if you can arrange for a catch-up or a coffee or some kind of a celebratory experience with them. If you have a father type figure, it doesn't have to be your actual father, but someone who has the role of a father in your life, then catch up with them at solstice, spend time with them, you know, and it could just be, you know, come around for coffee and cake and make a deal of it, make a celebration of that moment, mark that solstice moment by something significant, with mentors, with father figures, with a benefactor in your life, or go and experience some sort of cultural experience. It could just be, you know, you go to Chinatown in your city and have dinner out in Chinatown, or you go to the local, you know, market that has a lot of Greek food or something, and you connect with other cultures as a form of enjoyment and celebration and experience at this time. I'd highly recommend doing that for anyone who is Scorpio rising to celebrate solstice occurring. Libra rising people, this energy, Cancer energy, falls in your 10th house. So I would love for you guys, if you want to go and celebrate solstice, to hang out in the finer end of town, so to speak, the areas of social influence, the areas of prestige and high social status. So in Melbourne, you might like to go to South Yarra and just be in South Yarra for the afternoon for the solstice day. Have a picnic in a park in South Yarra. Or if you're in Sydney, I'm trying to think of what the big suburbs in Sydney are. I'm sure you can fill in the blanks for me there for all the Sydney siders, but go and be where things are, where there is great social status. You know, the Kensington in London, or, you know, I don't know, hang out at Buckingham Palace for the day if you're in London. Somewhere where there is a great deal of prestige, social status. Spend time in those areas as a way of celebrating solstice if you happen to be Libra rising. Now, you don't have to, you know, you can do something there. You don't have to just go and sit in the park in South Yarra, but you can go and do things, have a coffee, go shopping, do some you know, visit a gallery or something. Make a momentous occasion of it, but do it in an area that has high social prestige, social status, to see in the new solstice 6-month season. That's one way. I mean, and you can make, it's up to us to make as much of a ceremony or as little of a ceremony as we like. You could go to a park in South Yarra, and while you're there, write down a letter to myself in 6 months' time. Write that letter down. This is what my life will be like. This is what I aspire to achieve. Da, 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 da. Fold the letter up, put it in an envelope, and stick it somewhere at home when you go home. And then come 6 months' time, open up the letter and see what's happened. You know, that could be the simple ceremony you create for solstice time. But do it in a place of social status and influence. All right, if we're Virgo rising, then this Cancer solstice energy is falling for us in the 11th house. This is, yay, good for you guys. For Virgo people, go be with friends. Go hang out with big groups of people. If you want to go to a party, go to a party. Just be with the people you love. So this is for Virgo people. And Virgo people, I have found, do have a great capacity for ceremony, because their archetype is the priestess. And what do we often correlate with the whole priest and priestess kind of imagery is the doing ceremony, lighting candles and prayers and da-da-da-da. So you might like to create some sort of ceremonial experience with your friends. Now, if you were listening to me talking about Sagittarius Rising, I spoke about my darling, precious mentor and girlfriend who hosts solstice parties at her property. And this is something you can do if you want to with your friends, with your circle of friends. Have friends around, create ceremony, do some sort of magical, beautiful, momentous experience with your friends, with a group of people. Now you can create it or you can go out and enjoy it somewhere else, but being Virgo rising, offering it as an act of service to your friends would be a lovely thing for you to do if you feel the energy and invigoration to do this, to do some sort of a celebratory like dinner or just a getting together of a group of people to honor solstice. Maybe you might like to just have friends around, and if you can't be bothered cooking, get everybody to bring a plate or bring their own picnic dinner or something, and you sit around and you encourage everyone to sort of write down their goals. Okay, let's write down our goals for the coming 6 months. Let's write down a list of 10 things we're thankful for the last 6 months, and then get everyone to fold them up. As I said with Libra Rising, fold up these things, pop them in an envelope, everyone takes them home. 6 months time they open up the envelope and see what has happened and what's unfolded. And that can be a simple ceremony that you do with your friends out on a picnic, somewhere beautiful, somewhere lovely. So Virgo rising people will enjoy having ceremony, or can get the most benefit out of having ceremony at this solstice time with their friends. Leo, finally, Leo rising people, you have this falling, oh, that's a funny looking arrow, falling in your 12th house. And this is the house of retreat and escape. So a little bit like the first house for Cancer rising people, you will benefit by you can celebrate by doing something on your own. And there's nothing wrong with having a personal, private celebration on your own. Now, Leo people, rising people, probably not overly inclined to do that. I like to be the center of attention and to be where, the fun and pleasure is. But you can do that if you want to go out and celebrate solstice, with a group and with a crowd. You can do that, but I would encourage you at some point on solstice day, the 21st or the 22nd, depending where you are in the world, on solstice day, do some sort of celebratory experience by yourself in a retreat space. Now, you could go to a day spa. You could go to a monastery if there's one in your area where you can, maybe there's an ancient monastery you can go and explore and just spend some quiet time in prayer at a monastery or at a cathedral, somewhere like that. Some sort of a, like you might like to go and get your nails done or your hair done, and while you're there, just sort of step into a meditative space. You know what it's like when someone's playing with your hair and it's just lovely at the hairdressers, and you can sort of tune out and sort of go into that escapist mentality that's really, really lovely. So these are ways you can actually honor solstice. It doesn't, when I say celebration, it doesn't have to mean party poppers and champagne, and celebrating an event like this can be done in whatever way it works out in your chart to be done. And so by being alone, having some you time, having some meditative private time in whatever way, shape or form that takes for you, it's a really lovely, empowering thing to do at this solstice season with the sun in Cancer. So for Leo rising, one thing I've been suggesting throughout all these signs is writing down a list of things that you're grateful for and a list of things that you aspire to achieve in the coming 6 months. And as you do that, you can then fold up, spend some time quietly with a cup of coffee in your own home if you like, or in a private space somewhere, and then fold up your little list, pop it in an envelope, tuck it away somewhere that you open it in 6 months' time and see what's unfolded. That is just a very simple form of ceremony that you can apply to this situation, but do it in an area of privacy, retreat, escape, or a meditative space, and you'll get the most benefit out of it. And then, because you're Leo rising and you enjoy going out and having fun and, you know, doing pleasurable things, go out and do that if you'd like, but take some time to do some private, quiet, meditative reflection at solstice time, and it will benefit you enormously. So that's all the signs and how we can celebrate solstice if we would like to, how we can enjoy it, how we can make it a momentous occasion in a way that correlates with our particular chart. So take this on board if you'd like to, leave it if you think, oh, that's a bit ridiculous, you know, it's up to you. But they're just some little fun suggestions for how we can enjoy this beautiful, precious solstice season. So I might just close with a little prayer. Thank you, energy of love, that we can celebrate the past 6 months and all that it's brought us, all that it's taught us, all that we have become, all that we know now because of what we've experienced, and we can offer gratitude for those things. Thank you for the 6 months that is to come. Thank you that it is a 6 months that is unknown to us now, but holds the potential of great promise, great lessons, great challenges that will expand us, and the potential to embrace greater love from the universe if we can work with the energies as you would desire. So lead us into this time of celebration with joy. May we know great love and happiness through this solstice period. And so it is. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to speaking with you again next week, and God bless.